You cheated on me? Then take HIV. I suffered for at least 6 months, and now I can finally push her into the darkest abyss of hell. This is a long story, so let me light a cigarette, and I'll tell you everything. I met my girlfriend in 2006 when we were on the same tour trip. The moment I saw her, I promised myself that I had to make her my girlfriend. It wasn't hard. I simply poured my most sincere and deepest love into her, and she was moved by my genuine feelings. I loved her. I really, really loved her. But because of my job, I had to travel a lot. Sometimes I was away for weeks, even a month. Then about 6 months ago, I started noticing signs of her cheating. She suddenly began hiding from me whenever she was on her phone, texting or calling someone. The moment I glanced at her phone, she would immediately lock the screen. I was almost certain she was cheating, but I had no solid proof. Then one day I checked an old email account that I rarely used. There were hotel invoices. I looked through the emails and found some specific notes on the bills. That was all I needed. But a person's soul doesn't truly die until they themselves are dead. So my friends and I found out who she was sleeping with in the hotel they were meeting at. The first thing I felt when her betrayal was confirmed was rage. I wasn't heartbroken. I felt nothing but anger, like when you want someone to disappear, to die, to suffer. I wanted her to be in pain. My life had taught me that money could solve anything, and so I found a way to track down the guy she was cheating with. I even found his WeChat, which is like the Chinese version of Facebook. To put it simply, I have friends who are, let's say, very, very talented and intelligent people. In August of last year, I befriended a doctor. I told him my story and my plan, adding some sweet words. You can benefit from this too, of course. I'll pay you well, etc. He hesitated for a few days, but eventually gave me the contacts of some HIV-positive female patients. Apparently, hospital confidentiality policies weren't a concern for him. Out of the 3 patients I reached out to, only one agreed to my plan. Most people with HIV don't live clean lives. When you have money, you can control even the devil himself. In the end, I gave her the guy's contact information, part of the fee, and told her to infect him as soon as possible. In today's world, it's ridiculously easy for a woman to sleep with a man. It took her only 5 days. I was worried that one night wouldn't be enough for him to contract HIV, so I told her to sleep with him multiple times over a short period and paid her 15,000 yuan, $2,150 for it. My girlfriend still had no idea. She was truly in love with him. I realized that after reading her messages. About 2 weeks before New Year's, she developed a fever, a terrible, agonizing fever. I knew she was already infected. We had been intimate, but I always used protection. I told her to go to the hospital, but I had to leave for work for a few days, so I couldn't go with her. I would have paid a fortune to see her face when she found out she had HIV. 2 days later, I returned home and saw how devastated she was. That's when I called my friend at the hospital, and he confirmed that she had tested positive for HIV. I was ecstatic, but I acted completely clueless, pretending to be the idiot who knew nothing. She had no idea I already had the information about her diagnosis. When I came home, she was sitting on the couch staring at the wall. Her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. She looked like her entire world had collapsed. And you know what? I didn't care. At that moment, I felt only one thing: satisfaction. But I couldn't show it. No, I had to play my role until the end. Emily, what's wrong? I asked, pretending to be concerned. She looked at me and I saw fear in her eyes. Real, primal fear. I don't know how to tell you this, she whispered. Just say it, whatever it is. Just tell me what's going on. I have HIV. She broke down in tears. I walked up to her, hugged her, pretending that I was hurt and scared. But inside, I was celebrating. She had no idea that I had known before she did, that this was my plan, my revenge. How could this happen? I asked, feigning shock. I don't know. I don't know. She kept repeating it like a mantra. We've always been careful, I added, just to pour salt in the wound. She went silent. I could see her brain working frantically, trying to figure out how this could have happened. And then finally she asked, Have you been tested? I paused as if thinking. No, not yet, but I'll do it tomorrow. In reality, I already knew I was clean. I had been careful, but she didn't need to know that. Let her think I was at risk too. Let her suffer even more. The next day I went to the hospital. In reality, I just took a walk in the park. And in the evening, I came back with my results. I'm clean, I said, looking straight into her eyes. She started crying again. Now she knew for sure that she was the one who had brought the virus into our relationship. And you know the best part? She didn't even consider that it could have been me. No, she was convinced it was all her fault. And that made my revenge even sweeter. But this was just the beginning. She thought the worst was over. Oh, how wrong she was. A few days later, I started noticing that she was becoming distant. She wasn't crying anymore, but she wasn't talking either. She was just existing like a shadow. And I knew exactly what was on her mind. She was trying to figure out how to tell her lover that she was sick. She was still connected to him. I could tell by the way she acted, constantly checking her phone, texting someone, but quickly hiding it whenever I walked into the room. One evening, I decided to push her. Emily, I started, we need to talk. About what? She asked, avoiding my gaze. About us. About what's happening. You can't just stay silent. We need to figure this out. She sighed and finally looked at me. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Maybe start with how this even happened, I asked, still pretending to be clueless. She went silent again. I could see her struggling. Should she tell the truth? Admit to cheating? But she couldn't do it. I don't know, she repeated. And that's when I decided to strike. Emily, I know you cheated on me. Her face turned pale. She opened her mouth to say something, but the words got stuck in her throat. How? How did you? She started, but I cut her off. It doesn't matter how I found out. What matters is what you did. You destroyed us. And now you've destroyed yourself. She burst into tears. But this time, I didn't comfort her. I just stood up and walked away. Let her think about what she had done. Let her suffer. After I threw the truth about her cheating in her face, Emily tried to defend herself. She mumbled something about it being a mistake, about it happening only once, and that she regretted it. But I knew she was lying. I had seen her messages. I knew it had been going on for months, and I knew she was still in contact with him. Do you really think I don't know you're still talking to him? I asked coldly. She went silent again. Her face betrayed her panic. She realized I knew more than she thought. I just didn't know how to tell him, she whispered. Have you told him you have HIV? I asked, looking her straight in the eyes. She lowered her head. No, not yet, I smirked. Well then, you have a chance to make things right. Tell him the truth. Let him know you infected him. She looked at me in horror. You know that he also... Of course I know, I replied. And you know what's the funniest part? He doesn't even suspect that it was you who did this to him. She started crying again, but this time, the tears weren't from fear. They were from the realization that she had become nothing more than a tool in my revenge. She understood now that I hadn't just known about her affair. I had used her to destroy her lover. You did this on purpose? She asked, her voice trembling. What do you think? I replied with a smile. She jumped up and ran for the door, but I stopped her. Where do you think you're going? You really think he'll take you back once he finds out the truth? You think he'll want to be with you, knowing you infected him? She froze. I watched her world crumble. She finally realized she had no one left. Not me, not him, just her and her disease. A few days later, I noticed Emily acting strangely. She barely ate, barely slept, spending entire days locked in her room, staring at the wall. I knew what she was thinking about. She was thinking about her lover, about how he would react when he learned the truth. And I decided to help her with that. Emily, I said one evening, you have to tell him. You can't just stay silent. I can't, she whispered. You have to. Otherwise, it'll only get worse. She looked at me, and I saw pure desperation in her eyes. Will you come with me? She asked. No, I replied. This is your problem. You need to deal with it yourself." She nodded and went to see him the next day. I don't know exactly what she told him, but when she came back, her face was pale and her eyes were empty. She didn't even try to talk to me. She just walked past me and locked herself in her room. I knew what she had done. She had told him the truth. And of course, he had dumped her. Now she had no one. Not me, not him, just her and her disease. A week later, I decided it was time to end this game. I packed my things and told Emily I was leaving. You, you're leaving? She asked, disbelief in her voice. Yes, I said. I can't be with you anymore. You destroyed everything we had. She started crying, but I didn't comfort her. I just picked up my bags and walked away. As I left, I said only one thing. I hope you've learned that revenge is a dish best served cold. She looked at me with hatred, but I knew it was just a mask. Deep down, she was broken, and I had gotten exactly what I wanted. A few months after I left Emily, I finally felt that my revenge was complete. I heard that she had moved to another city, trying to start a new life. But I knew there would be no new life for her. She was broken, and that was exactly what I wanted. Her lover, the guy she had cheated on me with, had disappeared too. I heard he had gone far away trying to escape reality, but he couldn't escape himself. He knew he was sick, and he knew it was because of her. And you know what? I didn't care about him. He was just a pawn in my game. A pawn I used to destroy her. I felt no guilt, not a single drop. On the contrary, I was happy. Happy that I had gotten my revenge. Happy that she got what she deserved. Happy that her life had turned into hell. And you know what the best part was? She knew I had orchestrated it all. She knew I had destroyed her life, and there was nothing she could do about it. Sometimes I think about everything that happened, about how I planned it all, how I used her weaknesses, how I made her suffer. And you know what? I'm proud of myself. Proud that I saw it through to the end. Proud that I didn't give up, didn't forgive her, didn't give her a chance. I did what needed to be done, and it brought me immense satisfaction. Now I'm living my life. I have a new job, new friends, new hobbies. I don't think about the past. It's behind me. But sometimes when I look in the mirror, I see that same cold determination in my eyes, the same one that helped me achieve my goal. And I know that if someone ever tries to betray me again, I'll do the same thing. Because I've learned one important lesson. If you want to survive in this world, you have to be ready for anything, even revenge. And you know what? I'm ready, always ready.